It's called the Sport of Kings for a reason. Horse racing is not only big business here in the United States, it's even bigger business internationally. I got to sit down with Jeff Coakley of Win Wagering Systems to talk about the sport that takes no time off, knows no borders, and connects every race and creed. Jeff gave me the real deal, behind the scenes conversation when it comes to the business of international horse racing and wagering. Now let's get to business. Hello, everyone. I am Tatiana Ryan, your host for the Businessy podcast, and I am sitting here with Jeff Coakley of Win Wagering Systems. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Aloha kakahiaka, Tatiana. Good morning, good afternoon to you.
Yes, it is actually morning in Hawaii where you're at, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it is.
Very early morning.
Yeah. I think we're on like a 5-hour time difference, so I hope you're having a great afternoon.
Yes. It's 2:00 here, so it's a good afternoon, and I'm so excited to dive into talking to you about Win Wagering and some horse racing, which is what you guys do. So tell me a little bit about your background specifically with the horses and how you started Win Wagering.
Win Wagering came about is actually a legacy to my family. I'm fourth generation. I come from a long line of horsemen. My great grandparents, through my grandparents, my parents, and then myself. Started off as I was kind of born into it, really. A lot of my family were horsemen, trainers, jockeys, valets, any job at the racetrack on the backside, my family performed, whether it was track maintenance, driving the tractors, the water trucks, outrider ponies, valets, everything on the backside that's needed to run the racetrack and make sure it operates and functions correctly and in good order. That's what my family performed. And that was in Canada at Woodbine Racetrack. My great-grandfather, Polo, Ireland. My family immigrated here from Ireland, where my great-grandfather was a leading steeplechase jockey. Mm-hmm. My grandmother, Patricia Ireland Harris, she was North America's first registered female thoroughbred racehorse trainer, which is... they were pioneers of the sport, my family. And I got into it. I was thrown into it, eyes wide open, straight from birth. I was never allowed to go to the front side of the racetrack where the patrons, the general admission, people would pay to come watch the races, use the restaurants, the gambling amenities, and so on and so forth. I was never allowed that until I was about 10 or 11 years old to actually go up to the front side. Unless we had our horses running in a race that day, we would go up, sit in the owner's box. If we won, we would go down to the winner's circle, do the ceremonies, and then walk the horse back across the backside. And that was it. That was, my parents never allowed me. My family would never allow any of the kids, whether it was me or my cousins, to the front side. So we were always on the backside. Anything wagering, stuff like that was done in the kitchen on the backside where the barns are. We occupied barn 8 at Woodbine Thoroughbred Racetrack there in Etobicoke. My grandparents and my great grandparents lived in the Etobicoke house. It was called the Etobicoke house. And back then in the 50s, 60s, 70s, women jockeys and exercise riders were separated from the men. And the Etobicoke house was set up for those women riders and stuff. And my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents, they occupied that. I grew up there on the backside of that racetrack up until I was about 15. Traveled extensively as in my youth. By the time I was 15, I had gone around the world probably 3 times with my parents, not only for the sport of horse racing, but other ventures that my family were into. Traveled a lot, and in those travels, it took me to a lot of countries and a lot of racetracks, and I got to see just how operations worked, not only from Canada to USA, but from Europe to all over Asia and everywhere. So Win Wagering is basically a tribute or a legacy to my family. Sorry.
No, that's absolutely beautiful that it is, because we have to keep the tradition going.
Yes. I don't work in the industry myself. I do have a lot of family that still do work in the industry. I have a lot of cousins that are still in Canada that work at Woodbine Racetrack. I have a couple nieces and nephews that work with the couple of trainers over there. They're grooms and hot walkers and whatnot, assistant trainers. I have cousins and relatives that are in the pari-mutuel windows out on the front side of the track, and
they finally let them out.
You know,
they let them to the front side.
yeah. Well, we're all adults now, and we're all kind of degenerate now in our own way. So, no, we're all grown up, and they still are very much involved in the industry. Whether it's on the gambling side or the horse raising and breeding and training, breaking, and so on and so forth with the horses on the farms and stuff like that. So a lot of family out there. And a lot of it is from my mom's side. My father is Hawaiian. And although he never worked in the industry or anything like that, he was an owner with my mom. And that's kind of the extent there. I'm proud to say that I am part Hawaiian. Hawaii has always been home base, even though I did spend a lot of time in Canada. It was 6 months on, 6 months off. So a lot of traveling in my youth, a lot of homeschooling and stuff like that, because of the sport and so on and so forth. But that's pretty much what Win Wagering, how it came to be. I've been at it my whole life. Started the service, the portfolio service. I started probably about 2018, and I just took off with it from there. So,
well, being in Hawaii, your fingers in every country right now, because you cover from South Africa to South America to Japan. I've seen you posting things from Dubai, UAE, China, Japan, like everywhere.
Yes. We have clients in most of those places. I have some clients in South Africa. I have a lot of clients in the UK. I have in Europe, and that covers UK, France, Ireland. I don't do Germany. I really don't tap in. We tap into the Asian market a lot, and that's mostly Hong Kong. I really don't do a whole lot of Japan, although I follow Japan a lot. And that's not from the wagering aspect. That's from their livestock. I look at their livestock, how they do, rate their races and stuff like that. But I don't really offer too much of investment opportunities through Japan. Hong Kong, a lot. I work with a bot service in Hong Kong. I work with a couple services in Hong Kong that do we do batch betting, and we hit the bookies hard, and it breaks up the bankroll a little bit, so we're not dumping a lot of money onto one bookmaker where if we're doing really well, they limit us or they just cut us off completely. So the bot service is really, really cool to work with. In regards, we multiply our profits, or, it works the opposite way as well. When you lose, you're losing a substantial amount. But the portfolio service performs in such a way that we can always rebalance out. We're usually in the positive. Always. I mean, we don't offer selections anything under really 5-1 in order to grind out a profit long term, an investment opportunity. We're looking for select prices. We're usually in the 10-1, 20-1. If the probability doesn't change and our our competition doesn't see our assets performing that well, that's when we hit. We look for those big overlays and stuff like that, and that's where that's when we attack the bookies or the pari-mutuel crowds. We look at the pools and so on and so forth. So,
well, that's what people don't always understand about the business as it is as a whole now, because the internet has opened everything up to this entire business, where you used to have to go to a track, or you used to have to call a bookie and place your bet that way, go to the pari-mutuel window and give them your money. Now it's, you have to find the best place that has the best odds on the internet to place your bets.
True. That is absolutely true. I have designed a software system. That's what makes Win Wagering unique. Not only are clients tapping into 4 generations of horsemanship knowledge through me in the selection process, but they're also getting a sophisticated software program that aggregates all the bookies. Now, depending on the geographical location of our clients, is how my software is set up. So if I have my client set up in South Africa, whatever their needs are to their risk profile for each portfolio is built exclusively for each individual client and their needs. Basically, if they're in South Africa, all their information is downloaded into the software program. I have all the bookmakers in South Africa that work that, and I aggregate all those bookmakers together and give them the best opportunity, which ones to go for. Now, sometimes I have clients that'll come back and say, well, I'm actually getting better odds on this situation here with that, and then roll that way or whatever it is. So I do get a lot of feedback from my clients, clients in UK and stuff. The European scene with the bookmakers right now is really tough. They're cracking down. They're looking at affordability checks they're looking at your you know what I mean? It's getting really it's getting really tough. So a lot of people are just going through they're getting away from the regulated bookmakers and such.
And going backwards.
And actually going to the offshore sites where it's a whole different pool system, whole different play, but you're getting the action that they want and you're getting the prices and so forth. And when it comes to the bookmakers online, we're looking for withdrawals. We want to be able to withdraw those funds if we hit. And a lot of the offshores, we don't have problems with those guys. The regulated bookmakers, they will try and do everything possibly that they can to make life real difficult for you to get a withdrawal on your fund that you made money on. So the software program that I designed and set up is it aggregates all those bookmakers. So the people in UK, my clients in the UK, my clients in Hong Kong, in Canada, in the USA, depending on where they're located at, is how my software system is set up and aggregates those bookmakers. We look at the best purchase prices on our assets or our commodities or the horses that we want to select on. And we hit them hard with it. I mean, it's a lot of discipline and a lot of, if I had to do it manually, there's no way. There's no software system is what our clients are paying for, as well as my knowledge on the selections. And when it comes to the selections, we don't give the reasons why. I don't ever give the reason why. The bookmaker will. I look at the bookmakers and the such as like a restaurant, like a waiter in a restaurant. When you go into a restaurant and you order your dinner, the waiter will never ask you why you chose the steak, why you want the red wine with your steak. They don't care about that. They only want to know what you're having off the menu. And it's same as the teller or the bookmakers. They're not asking you why you picked number 7 to win or whatever it is. They really don't care about that. And all they want to know is how much, who you picking, how much are you risking? And that's that's kind of how we roll. So, the research that goes into the selections, that's all me. That's all me and my knowledge and my inside information, my connections that I have around the world from my travels. And I have pretty good connections out there. A lot of family out there, as well as a lot of people that work in the industry out there. And I am a part owner of a racehorse in Australia through Gemma Ride. And a lot of people out there in Australia. Australia is a huge, huge opportunity, and their bookmakers out there are extensive, and there's a lot of them. And it's a huge market. Australia is a huge market.
Well, you're not only, like you just said, very tech savvy. You have to know the trainers, the jockeys, the owners, how everyone is training, because different places train differently than, say the United States, where a horse is standing predominantly in his stall most of the time and just gets out on the track, where you'll see in England or something that they'll take the horses out on these huge trail rides, and, or Australia, where they're taking them out to the ocean.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes. Each country does things their own way. They do the things their own way. It was really neat to see in my youth, in my travels, how things worked. And even the riders now that travel overseas and stuff, they, like I'll mention a guy like Gary Stevens. I watched him race at Ascot one year and watched him do Cape Cross for Godolphin in the Queen Anne Stakes. And talking with Gary and stuff, he's just blown away by how they do things over there in the UK. Their training methods are definitely unique. From Australia to Hong Kong, it's not like America. The rules, just everything from the formula that they use, the drugs, the vets, just everything. It's very different from country to country.
Okay. Well, where have you seen the biggest shifts in the markets between all of these different countries? Maybe more technologically savvy, a little less technologically savvy. Like you said, their vets, their training methods.
In Japan, they're huge over there. That market over there in Japan, the way those guys work it is they're probably going to be the leading jurisdiction as far as they are on the rise. Some jurisdictions are on the decline. I'd like to think that America is as good as they are, and they're kind of a little bit on the decline. In regards to the handle that they bring in, I think they're down like 10% from the metrics are showing from 2023 to 2022. I think America's down about 10% on the metrics, which gives rise to places like Australia, Japan, Hong Kong. Their economies are great. They're booming. They've got great purse structures, different business model than America. It seems like more people are involved into the thoroughbred race markets in those regions over there.
Well, Japan just put on a really good show in Dubai, didn't they?
Absolutely. They are the way they're very disciplined, very structured in how they work, their training methods and stuff, as you mentioned earlier. They're incredible from their breeding, from the breeding shed all the way out to when the horse steps onto the track for the first time. They are focused and ready to race. There is no messing around. They don't use handlers in the stalls when they go in. They're trained to stand patiently while 20 other horses are being loaded into a gate. So there's it's big time. They come prepared. They are fit and focused, ready to race, and they come prepared, and there's no messing around with those guys. They are very disciplined and structured in how they work. They're patient with their animals. They take the time. They weed out the good from the bad. If they're not racehorses, they go on to different careers or whatever it may be. But their selection of racehorses they're one of the best. They're an up and coming they're on the rise as far as the jurisdiction goes, and they will be definitely a supreme leader in the international scene if they're not already. I mean, they go to France, they go all over the world. You don't see a whole lot of them in the US, and that's just because how the US, and this is not, I don't want to belittle or speak, I don't want to condescend on US racing, but they're the way they do their livestock is it's not kosher with the rest of the world, so to say. It's almost third world, and the welfare is not there. Whereas welfare for the horses in Japan, they come first. The horse is the star. They're the star of the show. They don't do the gambling's not the big thing. It's the horses. They parade them. They're the athletes. They're the Tom Brady's. They're everything to the sport in Japan. Japan treats the sport like a sport. They treat the animals like they're athletes. They're not the commodities like they are in the US. And to me, the way I run Win Wagering, they are commodities. Every single one of them, doesn't matter what region or jurisdiction or wherever continent I'm on or in country, they're commodities. But Japan does not look at it like that. They are, their outlook, it's hard for most people to fathom how they go about their business, and they're so disciplined and structured in what they do. And they look out for the horse first. The horse comes first. They're the athletes, they're the stars, they come first. And that's the beauty of Japan. And that's why they do so very well around the world. Doesn't matter where they come to. And you won't see them come to the US too much. They've dabbled in it. But when Japan comes to the US, now if they go to California, they want to know what California rules are. When they go to Kentucky, they need to know what Kentucky rules are. When they go here or there around the states, it's a smorgasbord of different formulas, different rules, and everything else. Now, granted, HISA is coming into play, but the politics that American racing has, I would say, is the main cause of the decline of USA racing. It's just due to the politics alone. And it's very sad. It's very, very sad. USA can be a leading, they used to be the leaders, but I don't see that anymore. I really don't. It's almost like I don't divulge into South America or Mexico or places like that, and that's just, it's almost like America's going that route.
Really?
With how their procedures and processes are and stuff like that. So it's really sad. But in regards to Japan, areas like France is a great equestrian place to visit. I mean, not only for horse racing, but just everything horses. Absolutely fantastic place to visit. You would see in France how things should be done as well. They're really great at what they do, their training process and stuff like that. They're top notch. So there are places out there that are on the rise. Japan is definitely one of them. Hong Kong has been on the rise for quite some time. They don't have a breeding industry in Hong Kong that kind of wags the dog's tail over there. They don't have to worry about anything like that. They get most of their livestock from Australia, and they're good livestock. You're starting to see big farms like Coolmore and stuff like that have been over there and doing the Southern Hemisphere. A lot of people are taking great interest in the Southern Hemisphere, the way they do things, their structure, their business model, and so on and so forth is it's really big. I absolutely love Australian racing. It's very competitive. They rate their races correctly. Their livestock are grouped together correctly. When you see those guys coming down the lane, there's 8 to 12 of them across the track, their noses apart, and they are all gunning for the wire. in American racing, you've got one guy out. I mean, they're stretched out like this, you know, like down the lane. It's you got one guy out front, another guy, you know, it's they're separated by sometimes many lengths. Whereas in international racing, you've got 8 or 10 of them coming across the wire, and it's almost always a photo finish. And the announcer's like even baffled as to who won the race. It's really, really, really exciting, really competitive, and they group their horses together correctly. They rate their horses really, really good. Whereas in you know, stateside, they're the claiming system, and that's a horrible formula for a equine under the jockey club to participate under. It's a really, really bad formula, that claiming system. I don't care for it at all. I, as a young kid, when I traveled the world and stuff, and got out there and exposed myself to a lot of the racetracks with my family, that was one of the biggest things that I saw was that. So I mean, the competitiveness and the way they rate their horses and rank them, they don't have a system like that claiming where that's how you purchase a racehorse off track like that. They do digital sales, or you know, there's a different way to buy a racehorse than a claiming system. It's horrible.
Yeah. Well, and they're also adopting completely different ways to get into racehorse ownership now, which is a completely different subject altogether. Which, you know, you can have micro shares now. You can, and I mean, we'll see how it turns out. It's actually, from what I'm seeing, becoming very popular. It's bringing certain people in to the sport itself, but a lot of people over here don't quite understand that, you know, racing doesn't stop. It's 24/7, 365 now with the different countries, as you were just saying with Australia, which is now going into their fall and winter festivals. You still have all of Europe, which is now going into their spring and summer, in England and Ireland and France, as you said, with the ARC. There's so much good racing ahead of us.
Yeah.
Where should we be looking at?
Well, you've got obviously here in the States, right around the corners, the Kentucky Derby, the big one. That's huge. We definitely tap into that market. The Triple Crown Series, the Breeders' Cup, a lot of good Group 1 racing out here stateside. But you've got the ARC coming up, like you said. There's the Dubai World Cup coming up. They just had the Saudi Cup over there. Gosh, there's just so much racing going on. The All-Star Miles coming up next week, and I think Gemma has our horse on the undercard on that day.
And that's in Australia.
That's in Australia. They've just come out, like you said, they're coming out of their summer season where they had a lot of big Group 1s, and right into the fall season they have still a ton of big Group 1s going. They must have at least like 80 or 60 to 80 Group 1s that they run in a year over there in Australia. France is coming around. UK, you got Ascot, Royal Ascot's right around the corner. So so in the Northern Hemisphere, the summer months in the Northern Hemisphere are huge. Canada, you got the Queen's Plate. It's going to be going on later on. Breeders' Cup later on at the end of the year for states. Their end of year tournament for the NTRA. Summer months is huge. There's just so much going on. And like you said, 24/7, 365. I'm up at 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. Depends on what's
We've talked then.
It gets pretty crazy here at the Win Wagering household in the office there in the war room is what I like to call it. But you know, there's a lot of good racing coming up in the Northern Hemisphere over the next few months. There's just a substantial amount of racing. So yeah.
Now, do the European countries look at the United States with our competitions and bringing their horses over here for, say, Kentucky Derby, Triple Crown stuff. Because I've seen more of like the jockey club. Like I went one time when the Queen's horse was running, but there's not really that much. You see a lot of, it's predominantly Americans running in these races.
Yeah, for the foreigners to come over, again, it's the politics stateside, and when the foreign horses come over, they are ready to rock and roll. The investment opportunity is really, really good for when you see the foreign horses come over from, whether they're coming from the UK, France, or wherever it may be. They, I can remember, this is before social media and stuff like that, but I went to Santa Anita, the Breeders' Cup. It must have been about 93. Bertrando was favored in the Classic. I just traveled to France a couple years earlier with my mom, and we had gone around, and I had seen Andre Fabre's outfit over there, and he shows up in the Breeders' Cup Classic with our Conways. Now, had that been in today's day and age, everybody would have known who he was, all this other stuff. You would have had all the information on him, the data that's available to the public would have been readily available for that horse. Our Conways, he came out, he picked up Jerry Bailey as a mount, went off at like 130 something to 1, paid $270 on a $2 win bet. And we had him that day. Only because I had gone to France and I knew who Andre Fabre. I didn't really know too much about his horse. I knew his horse was a Grade 1 winner, but the betting public paid no respect to him, no respect at all. And we went big on him, and it was huge. It was huge. So, but in today's day and age, with the foreign horses come over, they are prepared, ready to race. Same with America's Best. When America travels overseas, they do pretty well. The top trainers over here stateside, they got really good programs going on. Different rule formula. They allow medication, race day meds. So trainers over here are pushing the boundaries and envelopes on those thresholds and withdrawal times for the pharmaceuticals that the horses receive, whether they're for medication or whatever it may be. But the horses that come over here from that come here to do business usually do business pretty well. They take care of it. They're always in the top 3 or top 5, unless there's a mishap during the race. But if everything goes to plan and the horse can ship, they usually run their race. They run their race. If the jockey gives them the opportunity, they're there at the wire almost every time. Almost every
Well, I think probably one of the most memorable ones that was Thunder Snow that came over from, what was it, Dubai? I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody remembers Thunder Snow, but also it's not only the dirt track races, it's the steeplechases also. We just had John Hewitt come over from Ireland, who won at Far Hills. And it was probably the most epic thing ever because he won at Far Hills. He said it was an amazing person, amazing time there. But then he went back to Ireland and took his horse to a bar, And it's like seeing these different people and the way that they, run their lives with the horses themselves. It's always camaraderie. These horses bring everyone together.
Yes, they do. It's always a good time when the Europeans come over, and they come over and they mean business when they come over. They absolutely do. And their horses perform well. Ireland's a great place to we tap into the Ireland market. The Irish horses over there, they've got a great program going in Ireland. They're very much into their horses. If God put a horse on the earth, he probably put it in Ireland. You know what I mean? That they're just really, really huge on their racing too. The equestrian programs they have going on over there, they start their kids off at a young age. They have pony races. Like stateside, people don't really gamble too much on the horses anymore. They're more interested now that the sports markets are coming up. The kids grow up playing here, sports here. They play baseball, all the team sports, football, basketball. So they're being groomed already to head in that direction by the time they become legal age to bet. They already know those sports, so they gravitate to those sports. In places like Ireland, France, Australia, they have their kids at the track. They have pony races. They're very much into agriculture, and they groom their talent at a very, very young age. And the people, the communities in the rural areas out there, they're very much into the sport and into the welfare of the horses. So
right, and it's not just the dirt track racing that we see here that everybody thinks of. They're doing jump races. They're doing, turf all the time. It's very rare to see a dirt track out there.
Correct. America tracks are very much cookie cutter. You can go from New York to California, hit every track in between, and they all look the same. Other than the background scenarios and stuff, you look at the tracks, they're cookie cutters. They're all left-hand turn, mile eighth, whatever they are. There's nothing. They're built for speed. American racing is all about speed and keeping up the stamina to, like a guy like Bob Baffert. I cannot say enough about that. Love him or hate him, he's the best. I mean, he can get a horse to run at 40 miles an hour for 1.25 miles and maintain that. And however he's doing it, whatever it may be, I think he's got a great training program. He's using the rules and to his benefit, if that's what the rules allow, then he's doing it. You know what I mean? He'll take it right to the end of the envelope on the rule scene, and he gets the most out of his horses. In America, it's all dirt racing, hardly any turf. It's just how America was built, it's just how they were built. They're into their dirt. The biggest 3 races in North America are dirt orientated, so the breeding programs are designed around that structure for dirt. And it's I wouldn't say it's great for horses, but they make it work. America makes it work.
Now, with being out in Hawaii, you guys don't have any horse racing out there, do you?
No, there's a big, not legal horse racing. The cowboys that work on the ranches, especially here on the Big Island, they do get together. They're usually quarter horses and stuff like that. Small. There's a little bull ring track, little exercise track up in Waimea. And there's one on the Hilo side at Panieva Equestrian Center over there. They have a little 8-mile track that they gallop the horses around and stuff like that. My daughter he goes out there quite a bit. She has one pony out there and a couple more up in Waimea, but there is no horse racing legally. There's no legal gambling here. Really? Although everybody does gamble here in Hawaii. It's all offshores. Most people that live here in Hawaii have homes in America. So they use those addresses and they can gamble out here. But if you're a local that was born and raised out here, you don't really have the opportunity unless you do the offshore markets. And everybody out here is big time into football. Football, baseball. You got, the kids that come out of Hawaii, they're going into pro leagues and baseball and football like mad. And Oahu, years ago, the plantation owners, early 1900s and stuff, there was horse racing. They did have tracks out here, and there was quite a bit of thoroughbreds out here. I think as time went on with the politics and stuff like that, Hawaii got away from it, and they just don't allow the gambling out here. Hawaii is very Asian orientated, and their views, the political views out here in Hawaii, although it is coming around, gambling is on the in the legislative process, and they're trying to parallel what the Native Americans in North America are doing, the Indians and stuff on their reservations. So the Hawaiian homelands are trying to set up casinos and stuff like that over here on their Hawaiian homelands. But there's no literature for sports wagering in that. It's kind of like a brick and mortar, a casino type of thing.
Okay.
So I'm thinking if it comes to fruition, Hawaii will be like a Vegas. All the resorts out here will turn into a Vegas situation, and it'll probably be more like Macau in China. Probably people in Vegas will probably start traveling out here to do it. And that's what they're looking for is to generate that kind of revenue, the state here in Hawaii. But there is no gambling. There is no horse racing here. There is a big agricultural movement out here. The cattle industry is huge, and a lot of cowboys and stuff up in Waimea.
That's your own Yellowstone there, huh?
That's our little Yellowstone. Actually, Parker Ranch, Tatiana Parker Ranch was the biggest ranch in the world at one time. The whole entire Big Island was Parker Ranch. The whole island under Kamehameha was Parker Ranch, and that's bigger than any ranch in Texas and anywhere in North America. Hawaii at one point in time had the biggest ranch in the world.
I think you can probably see one of the books you sent me behind me about Parker Ranch.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Really good. Well, Parker Ranch was big time. And Waimea, there's still a lot of ranch land up in Waimea, and it does draw in some tourists. Most of the tourists out here, they like the beaches and they're here for the beach and the sun and the sunny weather and the luau's and stuff like that, more of the touristy resort kind of things. But when they do pass through Waimea, they do get some of that little bit of that cultural history, that agriculture and the cowboy lifestyle. The Mexicans came out here. King Kamehameha brought the vaqueros, the Mexican cowboys out here, and they taught the Hawaiians how to handle the livestock, both the cattle and the horses, and it's been real big ever since. The cattle industry out here is huge. The grass-fed beef.
Yeah, you've told me your daughter's doing some barrel racing like I used to do, so that's awesome to see that out there.
Yes, there's a big there as far as equestrian goes, they've got the rodeos out here, barrel race. They got the Bronx right up the road in Waikiki Ranch. Keahi also does polo. She does a little bit of polo stuff.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, a team from the high school boys went up to California and just took a tournament up there, a polo tournament up there. They played teams from Colorado, all over Nevada, California, and stuff like that. So they did really well. A lot of equestrian stuff going on out here.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I said, those horses, they connect everybody. They are such big business with everybody too. I mean, you're talking billions, possibly trillions of dollars definitely trillions of dollars when you start adding up all the different disciplines too. So the horse industry is not going anywhere for quite some time.
No, I don't think so. Definitely not. The industry, thoroughbred racing, breeding, and gambling on horse racing, like you said, is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and that's why we tap into it. It's a little market of its own. It has a lot of opportunity.
They're always hiring. They are always hiring.
In regards to investment opportunities, It's huge. The international thoroughbred race markets, there's a lot of good investment opportunities out there. When you can tap into those markets and be very successful, as long as you're performing well. I like to think Win Wagering, the portfolio services that we provide, we're focused on performance. That's our main thing, and that's what we offer to our clients and customers, that they can rely on our performance and show a profit at the end of their quarter, whatever it is. And most of my customers have been around for a couple of years now. They're repeat customers. They've been with me, and we show substantial earnings at the end of annually, every quarter as well. The service really pays for itself, and we may be a little bit more high end than other touting services out there, but like I said, we're more of a portfolio service, and we cater to our clients' risk needs. So whatever we build the portfolios individually for each client. So, and depending on their region, where they're at, there's a lot of things to consider. We have exchange rates. There's just a ton of things that need to be handled when you're doing international stuff, as opposed to just staying locally at one market like North America or anything like that. North America is really big time pari mutual market, which is zero sum, and a lot of the other places that we deal with, Hong Kong, Australia, Europe, South Africa, those are bookmakers. So we're looking at the bookmakers as opposed to the pools and pari mutual competition. So yeah, it's a huge, international thoroughbred racing is a huge investment opportunity, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, breeding, racing, and it's huge. It is really huge.
Yes, and they definitely need a professional behind them, someone like you. Where can people follow you on social media or on the internet, find you and find out more about your services?
Pretty much just on Twitter. I'm on the Twitter page. Used to have a Facebook page, but didn't. Facebook's kind of
yeah.
So I use Twitter to market the product, and that's about it. It's pretty much word of mouth. I have about 22 clients right now around the globe that I help with. And pretty much the only thing I'm on is Twitter. So that's social at Win Wagering on Twitter. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you have a website?
I do. winwagering.com. That's where you can apply for a portfolio service. And when people apply for that, we go on there, and we're very select. We talk to our clients, make sure that we're right for them and they're right for us, kind of thing. And that they have the funds or whatever it is necessary to, we set up a strict, disciplined bankroll staking strategy system. So we just want to make sure that our clients fit us and that we fit our clients. So we're very selective on who we choose to work with.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for all of this time to sit down with us and tell us a little bit more as to what you actually do, going into these markets, going into the actual investing, because like I said, this is a big business. I am Tatiana Ryan for the Businessy Bot podcast, and I am with Jeff Coakley. Thank you again so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Tatiana, it was an honor and a pleasure. I was really nervous, but thank you very much. It's really nice to chat with you, and I appreciate the opportunity of being on the Businessy Bot podcast with you. And it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so very much.